There's a subtle danger in this world, not always loud, not always obvious. It's the quiet manipulation that creeps in under the disguise of kindness. And most times it starts with a simple favor. Not every favor is dangerous, but there are 8 you need to look out for, 8 that should trigger something in your spirit. Because the people who ask for these aren't always asking for help. Sometimes they're asking for access. You don't hand someone the keys to your house just because they say, I'll take care of it. You don't open your heart to someone simply because they ask for a place in it. That's not how trust works. Trust is not something we give because someone wants it. It's something that's built slowly over time through actions, consistency, and truth. Real trust is created in the small moments, in how someone speaks about you when you're not in the room, in whether they show up when it's inconvenient, not just when it benefits them, in whether they honor your boundaries when they don't understand them. It's found in how they handle your silence, your struggle, your story. Anyone can say, you can trust me, but the ones who deserve your trust don't need to say it. They prove it through how they respect your no, how they listen without trying to fix you, how they hold your truth without judgment. Trust isn't a promise, it's a pattern, and patterns don't lie. There's a reason your soul hesitates before fully trusting someone. It's not fear, it's wisdom. You've seen what happens when you give your trust too soon. You felt the betrayal that comes when someone wears the mask of care only to reveal the face of convenience. Trust is not something you owe anyone. It's something they have to earn over time with integrity, empathy, and consistency. Trust grows where safety exists, not safety in the form of comfort, but emotional safety, where your thoughts aren't dismissed, where your vulnerability isn't used against you, where your absence is felt and your presence isn't taken for granted. You cannot fake that, you cannot force that, you cannot speed that up. And when someone demands trust instead of earning it, that's not a red flag, it's a loud siren. Because real relationships, the ones built on mutual respect and truth, never start with demands. They start with quiet observation, shared space, consistent care, and unspoken understanding. It's in the asking that the truth starts to show. Not always immediately and not always loudly, but if you pay attention, you'll see it. Because favors are never just favors. They're windows into how someone views you, what they expect from you, and what role they believe you should play in their life. When someone asks you to do something, they're not just asking for your time or your energy. They're asking you to step into a position in their world. And that position often says more about their intentions than their words ever could. Some people ask for help because they trust you, because they see you as someone capable and kind. But others ask because they see you as easy. They ask not because they believe in your goodness, but because they're counting on your guilt. They ask because they know you're the one who won't say no, even when it costs you peace, sleep, or self-respect. Notice the patterns. The ones who only reach out when they need something. The ones who ask you to compromise, to shrink, to stretch yourself thin again and again. These aren't just favors, they're clues. Clues to what they truly want from you. Maybe they want loyalty, but only one-sided. Maybe they want presence, but not partnership. Maybe they want your strength, not to support you, but to lean on you without ever returning the weight. Pay close attention to the timing too. Some people will wait until you're tired, vulnerable, or emotionally distracted before they make their ask. Because in those moments, you're less likely to pause, to question, to protect your own space. And that's not just about what they want, it's about how they move through the world. It's about what they think you're worth and whether they see your kindness as a gift or a weakness to exploit. And then there are the asks that come with strings, unspoken expectations, subtle manipulation, quiet ultimatums. Do this for me, they say, without saying, or I'll pull back my affection, or I'll change how I treat you, or I'll make you feel guilty for not choosing me over yourself. These are the hardest to recognize because they don't sound dangerous. They sound polite, they sound casual, but deep down something always feels off. You know it, your body knows it, that gut feeling you get, it's never wrong. There comes a point where you have to decide what matters more, being liked or being whole. Because trying to please everyone will slowly empty you. It starts small. You say yes when you mean no. You stay quiet when something hurts. You show up when you're exhausted, emotionally tapped out, stretched so thin you're barely recognizable to yourself. And you tell yourself it's kindness, that it's love, that it's what good people do. But deep down, it doesn't feel good. It feels heavy. You were never meant to carry everyone else's expectations on your shoulders. You're not here to be the fixer, the one who smooths everything over, the one who bends just enough to keep the peace for everyone else. Because when you're always trying to make others comfortable, you end up uncomfortable in your own skin. That's not peace, that's performance. Protecting your peace isn't selfish, it's survival. It's choosing to value your mental and emotional well-being as much as you've been taught to value other people's opinions of you. And it means setting boundaries that might disappoint people but save you. It means saying, I can't do that right now without apologizing for being human. It means listening to your body when it's tired, listening to your spirit when it's overwhelmed, and trusting that your needs matter too. Not everyone will understand. Some will call it cold, some will call it distant, especially the ones who benefited from your lack of boundaries. But that's okay. You weren't put on this earth to be understood by everyone. You were meant to live in a way that doesn't leave you constantly apologizing for needing space, silence, rest, and truth. And here's the thing, when you protect your peace, the right people remain, the ones who love you without conditions, the ones who don't make you feel guilty for taking care of yourself, the ones who don't expect you to sacrifice your joy for their comfort. Because real connection doesn't come from people pleasing, it comes from showing up as your whole self, unfiltered, grounded, and unwilling to trade your inner calm for temporary approval. We're often taught that saying no makes us cold, that pulling back means we don't care, that choosing ourselves is somehow a betrayal to everyone else. So we stretch, we give, we overextend. We say yes when we want to say no and smile when we're breaking inside, just to avoid disappointing someone else. But boundaries, real, honest, soul-protecting boundaries, aren't acts of cruelty, they're acts of courage. A boundary is not a wall. It's not about shutting people out. It's about knowing where you end and someone else begins. It's the invisible line that protects your energy, your time, your mental space, and your heart. It's not about keeping love away. It's about making sure love, respect, and care are mutual. Because when people get too close without respect, without awareness, without responsibility, you lose yourself in the process of keeping them happy. Boundaries are not meant to punish. They are meant to preserve. They are the quiet, powerful ways you tell the world, this is what I will accept and this is what I won't. They are how you teach people to treat you, not through yelling, not through guilt, but through consistent, grounded action. A boundary is saying, I can love you and still not tolerate that behavior. It's saying, I can care, but I will not carry what isn't mine. And yes, people will push back, especially the ones who've grown used to your silence, especially the ones who benefit when you have none. They'll say you've changed, they'll call you distant, but the truth is, you're just finally choosing yourself. You're finally realizing that protecting your peace, your energy, and your healing is not selfish, it's sacred. Boundaries are how you rebuild trust with yourself. Every time you honor what you feel, what you need, what you're no longer willing to accept, you send a message to your own soul that says, I hear you, I see you, I've got you. And that, more than anything else, is what keeps you grounded. Not in resentment, not in fear, but in strength, in clarity, and in quiet self-respect. It doesn't always come with shouting or obvious control. Sometimes it sounds like concern. Sometimes it looks like kindness. Sometimes it feels like love. That's what makes it so dangerous, because it doesn't announce itself. It hides behind sweet words, familiar smiles, and perfectly timed guilt. It cloaks itself in phrases like, I'm just trying to help, or you used to be different, or I thought you cared. But underneath the softness, there's a quiet pull, a subtle twist, a strategy designed to bend your will without your consent. You don't always notice it right away. At first, it seems harmless. Harmless enough to ignore, harmless enough to excuse. But over time, you start feeling smaller around that person, less sure of your own thoughts, less steady in your own skin. You find yourself second-guessing decisions you used to make with confidence. You find yourself apologizing for things that don't require an apology. You start adjusting who you are just to avoid their disappointment, their silence, or their passive reactions. That's manipulation. Not the obvious kind, the quiet kind, the kind that twists your empathy into obligation, the kind that uses your loyalty as a leash, the kind that plays victim when you try to create distance, when you try to speak truth, when you try to step into your own power. And it's hard because they don't seem like a bad person. In fact, they might be charming, they might be warm in public, thoughtful in some moments. That's how they keep you close. That's how they keep you questioning whether the problem is them or you. But it's not love if it requires losing yourself. It's not care if it silences your voice. Manipulation isn't always about domination. Sometimes it's about subtle control. Control that convinces you it's all in your head, that you're too sensitive, that you're the one who's hard to deal with in that narrative. It's intentional, because once you doubt yourself, they don't have to lift a finger. You'll keep yourself small for them. You'll stay quiet for them. You'll surrender pieces of yourself to keep the peace that only benefits them. It can come from anyone, family, friends, lovers, even colleagues. Anyone who has learned how to get their way without appearing forceful. Anyone who uses your softness as leverage. And it's not about weakness on your part. It's about trust being taken advantage of. It's about your open heart being seen as a loophole, not a gift. You don't owe anyone an explanation for listening to your intuition. You don't have to justify a feeling you can't quite name, because sometimes the truth doesn't show up in words or logic. It shows up in discomfort, in tension in your shoulders, in the knot in your stomach, in the way your chest feels tight when you're around certain people, or when you're asked to do something that doesn't sit right with you. That's not paranoia. That's not you being dramatic. That's your body trying to protect you before your mind catches up. We live in a world that teaches us to doubt our instincts, to prioritize politeness over protection, to smile through what hurts, to say yes just to avoid the weight of disappointment in someone else's eyes. But that's a dangerous pattern, because every time you override that gut feeling, you chip away at your own trust. You tell yourself that someone else's comfort matters more than your own clarity. And the more you do it, the quieter that inner voice becomes, until one day you can't hear it at all, and you forget how to recognize the warning signs. Your gut knows what your heart is still trying to figure out, and you are allowed to say no, even if you don't have proof. You are allowed to decline without guilt. You are allowed to remove yourself from a situation, a conversation, a relationship, or an opportunity that feels misaligned. You are not here to be agreeable at your own expense. You are not here to sacrifice your peace for the sake of someone else's approval. People might not understand. That's okay. You don't have to explain yourself to be valid. Your boundaries don't need to be translated into a language someone else is ready to accept. They just need to be honored by you, because at the end of the day, no one else has to live with the consequences of you ignoring your gut. No one else has to carry the emotional weight that builds when you silence your own knowing to please someone else. It takes courage to say no in a world that rewards compliance. But there is power in that refusal. There is strength in the quiet moment where you pause, breathe, and choose to listen to the subtle message within you whispering, something's not right here. That voice is yours. That wisdom is yours. You don't need permission to trust it. Absolutely. Here's a powerful and grounded conclusion that ties together all the core ideas of your speech. Trust is not something you hand out freely. It's something that grows slowly through consistency, through honesty, through time. And along the way, you will meet people who ask for too much, who demand favors that chip away at your self-respect, who test your boundaries, who wear masks so convincing you begin to question your own reflection. But you are not here to be endlessly available. You are not here to serve everyone's comfort while abandoning your own clarity. You are here to honor your gut, to listen to your discomfort, to recognize when someone's asking isn't just a request, it's a red flag. The truth is, the strongest version of you will not be the most agreeable, the most self-sacrificing, or the most liked. It will be the version of you who can say no without guilt, walk away without explanation, and protect your peace without apology. That version of you already exists. You just have to choose